The sun was setting over Miami when Cristiano Ronaldo pulled into the Walmart parking lot in his rental car. He couldn't help but smile at how ordinary this moment felt. One of the world's most famous athletes, about to go shopping at a regular store, just like everyone else. He had a free evening before tomorrow's children's soccer clinic, and instead of staying in his luxury hotel room, he wanted to experience what daily life was like for regular people in America. Just need some soccer balls and equipment for tomorrow, he thought to himself, grabbing a shopping cart and walking through the sliding doors. The cool air conditioning hit his face as he entered the brightly lit store. He was dressed so casually, just wearing blue jeans and a plain black t-shirt, that for the first few minutes, nobody even recognized him. Pushing his cart down the wide aisles, Ronaldo found himself genuinely enjoying this simple task. He picked up some healthy snacks for the kids, water bottles, and was now looking for the sporting goods section. The normalcy of it all felt refreshing. No cameras, no press, just a regular shopping trip. A little boy walking with his mom did a double take as Ronaldo passed by their cart. The boy's eyes went wide, and he tugged on his mother's sleeve, whispering something in her ear. Ronaldo pretended not to notice, but he couldn't help grinning. He loved these genuine reactions much more than the staged encounters he usually experienced. As he turned into the sports equipment aisle, more people began to realize who he was. A teenager working at the store nearly dropped the box he was carrying. Two elderly ladies who clearly had no idea about soccer still smiled at the excitement building around them. Phone cameras started appearing, but everyone kept a respectful distance. The store manager, a kind-faced woman in her 40s, approached him with a professional smile. "Mr. Ronaldo, welcome to our store. Is there anything specific you're looking for?" she asked, trying to maintain her composure despite clearly being starstruck. "Yes, I need some soccer balls and cones for a children's clinic tomorrow," he replied warmly. His voice carried his signature Portuguese accent, but his words were clear and friendly. The manager's help was exactly what he needed. The store was bigger than he expected, and he wanted to make sure he got the right equipment for tomorrow's event. What started as a simple shopping trip was turning into something more meaningful. Ronaldo noticed how the other shoppers from all different backgrounds were coming together, sharing excited whispers and smiles. Parents were explaining to their children who he was, telling stories about his achievements and how hard work could make dreams come true. As he examined the selection of soccer balls, Ronaldo overheard a young cashier tell her coworker, "See, even famous people shop at Walmart." He chuckled to himself. This was exactly why he wanted to come here. Sometimes the simplest moments could create the strongest connections with people. The evening was going perfectly, with everyone being respectful and friendly. Little did Ronaldo know that this ordinary shopping trip was about to turn into something much more significant. A moment that would test his character and impact not just his life, but the lives of everyone present in that store. Word quickly spread through the Walmart aisles that Cristiano Ronaldo was shopping in the store. What started as a few curious onlookers soon turned into small groups of excited fans, their faces lighting up as they caught glimpses of the soccer superstar. The beautiful thing was how naturally it all unfolded. There was no pushing, no shoving, just pure joy and respect. A little girl, probably around 7 years old, clutched her father's hand tightly as they walked past. She was wearing a soccer jersey, and her eyes sparkled with disbelief when she saw Ronaldo. Her father, trying to contain his own excitement, politely asked if they could take a quick photo. Ronaldo's face broke into his famous warm smile. He had a soft spot for young fans who reminded him of his own humble beginnings. "Of course," he said, kneeling down to the girl's height. "Do you play soccer?" he asked her. She nodded shyly, mentioning that she was a forward on her school team. "Keep practicing," he encouraged her, "and maybe one day we'll play together." The girl's face lit up with a smile that could have powered the whole store. The store manager, watching all this unfold, was amazed at how Ronaldo handled each interaction. She'd seen other celebrities in her store before, but none had shown this level of genuine warmth. She carefully helped maintain a comfortable space around him, ensuring everyone got their chance to say hello without creating chaos. A group of teenagers who had been shopping for snacks couldn't believe their luck. They approached nervously, phones in hand, asking for selfies. Ronaldo not only agreed, but took the time to ask them about their own soccer dreams. One boy mentioned he was trying out for his high school team next week. Remember, Ronaldo advised, confidence comes from preparation. Train hard, and success will follow. An elderly couple who had no idea who he was initially got caught up in the excitement. The old man asked his wife, "Who is this young fellow everyone's so excited about?" When someone explained, they too wanted a photo, making everyone laugh when the grandmother said, "My grandkids won't believe I met you, whoever you are." The beauty of the moment wasn't just about meeting a famous athlete. It was about how Ronaldo made everyone feel special. He switched easily between English, Portuguese, and even attempted some Spanish with a Hispanic family, showing how sports truly could bridge any cultural gap. A young store employee, who had been restocking shelves nearby, couldn't help but watch in amazement. During a quiet moment, Ronaldo noticed him and gave him a friendly nod. The boy gathered his courage and approached, not for a photo, but to thank Ronaldo for being an inspiration to work hard and never give up. This genuine moment touched Ronaldo deeply. It reminded him of his own days working humble jobs before his soccer career took off. Parents lifted their children onto shoulders for better views, phones captured precious moments, and social media began buzzing with posts about the surprised celebrity shopper. But what made this scene special wasn't the fame. It was how Ronaldo turned a simple shopping trip into a moment of connection and inspiration. The atmosphere in the store had transformed into something magical. Regular shoppers who had come for their weekly groceries found themselves part of an unexpected community, sharing smiles with strangers and joining in the collective joy of the moment. Even people who weren't soccer fans could appreciate the genuine human connections being formed. Nobody knew that this beautiful scene was about to face an unexpected challenge, one that would test not just Ronaldo's patience, but his character and ability to transform a negative situation into something powerful and meaningful. The pleasant atmosphere in the sporting goods section suddenly shifted when a loud voice cut through the happy chatter. A middle-aged man, pushing his cart aggressively, started making rude comments about foreigners and celebrities thinking they owned the place. At first, people tried to ignore him, but his voice grew louder and his words became more hateful. Ronaldo was examining soccer balls when he heard the comments. He'd faced similar situations before. The sting of prejudice was something he understood all too well, from his early days as a poor kid in Madeira to becoming an international star. But what caught his attention wasn't the man's words. It was the effect they were having on the other shoppers. A young boy, maybe 10 years old, stood with his mother nearby. The child's hand tightened around his mom's as the angry man's voice grew louder. The boy's eyes met Ronaldo's for a brief moment, and in that look, Ronaldo saw something he recognized: the hurt of being made to feel different, of being told you don't belong. Other shoppers began to shift uncomfortably. The joyful mood from moments before was evaporating like morning dew under a harsh sun. A few people pulled out their phones, probably expecting things to get worse. The store manager stepped forward, ready to intervene, but Ronaldo caught her eye and gave a subtle shake of his head. The angry man continued his rant, now directing his comments specifically at Ronaldo and other shoppers of different backgrounds. "Why don't you all go back to where you came from?" he shouted, his face red with anger. "This isn't your country." His cart rattled as he gestured wildly. An older woman who had been shopping for her grandchildren's sports equipment quietly gathered her things and hurried away, her head down. A group of teenagers who had been excitedly taking photos moments before now stood frozen, their phones lowered, uncertain what to do. The air felt heavy with tension. Some people wanted to speak up, but didn't know how. Others looked away, pretending not to hear. The young boy who had caught Ronaldo's attention earlier was now practically hiding behind his mother, who stood tall but worried, her hand protectively on her son's shoulder. Ronaldo had faced countless challenges on the soccer field. Last-minute penalties, crucial free kicks, career-defining moments. But this was different. This wasn't about scoring goals or winning games. This was about something much more important: human dignity and respect. He watched as a family with small children quickly moved to another aisle, the parents trying to shield their kids from the hate. The store's security guard appeared at the end of the aisle, speaking quietly into his radio, ready to step in if needed. But Ronaldo knew that removing the angry man wouldn't solve anything. It would only push the problem somewhere else. Looking around, Ronaldo saw faces from all over the world, different colors, different backgrounds, all brought together in this everyday American store. He saw in their expressions something he'd seen many times before: the silent pain of discrimination, the wish for someone to stand up and say, "This is not right." The angry man was now standing just a few feet away, his words becoming more personal and pointed. The moment had come for a decision. Ronaldo could walk away. He had no obligation to engage. But as he looked again at the young boy, still partially hidden behind his mother, he knew what he had to do. This was more than just an unpleasant incident in a store. This was a moment that could either divide people further or bring them together. And Ronaldo, who had spent his life breaking down barriers through sport, wasn't about to let hate win this match. Everyone in the store held their breath, waiting to see how Cristiano Ronaldo would react to the angry man's hateful words. But instead of showing anger or walking away, Ronaldo did something unexpected. He smiled. Not a mocking smile or a forced one, but the kind of gentle smile that could calm a storm. He turned his attention to the young boy, who was still hiding behind his mother. Walking over slowly, Ronaldo knelt down to the child's eye level, completely ignoring the angry man who was still shouting nearby. "Hey there, friend," he said softly. "I like your soccer shoes. Are you a player too?" The boy peeked out slightly, his eyes wide with a mix of fear and wonder. His mother's hand remained protective on his shoulder, but she relaxed a bit when she saw Ronaldo's genuine approach. The boy nodded shyly, pointing to his worn but well-loved soccer shoes. "You know," Ronaldo continued, speaking just loud enough for those nearby to hear, "when I was your age, I had just one pair of soccer shoes. They had holes in them, but I played anyway. Some people told me I didn't belong in the sport, that I was too skinny, too poor, from the wrong place." He paused, making sure the boy was listening. "But here's what I learned. Your worth isn't decided by what others say about you." The angry man's voice had started to fade, as if the wind had been taken from his sails. People in the store were now focused on this quiet conversation between a global superstar and a young boy who minutes ago had been trembling with fear. Ronaldo reached into his shopping cart and pulled out one of the new soccer balls he'd selected. "Would you show me your best juggling skills?" he asked the boy. The child looked up at his mother, who nodded encouragingly. Slowly, he stepped forward into the clear space of the aisle. The ball bounced once, twice, and then the boy managed 3 solid touches before it fell. The small crowd that had gathered applauded softly, and the boy's face lit up with pride. Ronaldo joined in, demonstrating a few simple tricks that made everyone smile. "See," Ronaldo said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "soccer doesn't care what language you speak or where you come from. It only cares about what's in your heart and how hard you're willing to work." He looked around at the gathered crowd, making eye contact with various people, including the angry man who had now fallen silent. The store manager watched from nearby, tears in her eyes at how this potentially ugly situation was being transformed into something beautiful. Other children began to edge closer, drawn by the impromptu soccer demonstration. Parents who had been shielding their kids moments ago were now pulling out phones to capture this unexpected moment of joy. The young boy was smiling now, his earlier fear forgotten, as he attempted another juggle with the ball. Ronaldo clapped encouragingly, showing him how to position his feet better. The lesson wasn't just about soccer. It was about standing tall in the face of fear, about responding to hate with skill and grace. Through it all, Ronaldo maintained his calm demeanor, but his actions spoke volumes. He was showing everyone in that store, especially the young boy, how to handle difficult situations with dignity. He demonstrated that sometimes the strongest response to hatred isn't to fight back with more hatred, but to rise above it and show a better way. As the boy continued practicing with the ball, his confidence growing with each touch, something remarkable was happening in that Walmart aisle. The tension that had filled the air minutes ago was dissolving, replaced by something warmer and more hopeful. And this was just the beginning of how Ronaldo would transform this challenging moment into something truly meaningful. After that beautiful moment with the young boy, Ronaldo knew it was time to address the situation directly. He gently handed the soccer ball back to the child and turned towards the angry man who had been watching the whole scene unfold. The store had grown quiet, with only the faint background music playing through the speakers. "My friend," Ronaldo said, walking slowly towards the man with open body language and calm eyes. "Would you like to talk? Just you and me?" His voice was gentle but confident, carrying no trace of anger or judgment. The man, who had been so vocal moments ago, seemed taken aback by this direct but peaceful approach. People around them had their phones ready, expecting drama, but Ronaldo raised his hand slightly, signaling them to lower their devices. "No recordings, please," he said to the crowd. "This is just a conversation between two people." Some customers looked disappointed, but they respected his request, putting their phones away. The store manager stepped forward, ready to intervene, but Ronaldo gave her a reassuring nod. He understood something that many people forget. Sometimes the angriest voices come from the deepest hurts. The man shifted uncomfortably, his shopping cart creating a barrier between them. "I see you're buying sports equipment too," Ronaldo observed, pointing to some items in the man's cart. "Do you have children who play?" This simple question seemed to catch the man off guard. His stern expression flickered for a moment, showing a glimpse of something softer underneath. The tension in the air began to change. Instead of the crackling electricity of conflict, there was now the quiet hum of possibility. Other shoppers watched in amazement as Ronaldo took another step forward, closing the distance but maintaining a respectful space. "You know," Ronaldo continued, "I've played soccer in many countries, met people from all walks of life. What I've learned is that we all want the same things: to take care of our families, to be respected, to belong." He paused, letting his words sink in. Sometimes it's easy to forget that we're all just trying our best. The young boy who had been juggling the ball earlier watched from behind his mother, but now with curiosity rather than fear. The angry man glanced at the child, then back at Ronaldo. Something in his expression had changed. The hardness in his eyes was softening, if only slightly. "I'd really like to hear your story," Ronaldo said sincerely. "Not to judge or argue, but to understand. And maybe you'd like to hear mine too. About growing up poor in Madeira. About feeling like an outsider. About learning that our differences can make us stronger together." A few feet away, an elderly couple who had been shopping stopped to watch. The old man whispered something to his wife about how he'd never seen anything quite like this in all his years. The wife nodded, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. The angry man's shoulders began to relax, his grip on his shopping cart loosening. He looked around at the faces watching them, not with judgment now, but with hope. The simple act of being approached with dignity instead of defensiveness seemed to be breaking down walls he built long ago. The fluorescent lights of Walmart continued to buzz overhead, but in that moment, this ordinary store aisle had become something extraordinary. A place where hatred was being transformed through the simple power of human connection and understanding. As Ronaldo stood there, waiting patiently for the man's response, everyone in the store knew they were witnessing something special. This wasn't just about resolving a conflict. It was about showing how courage and compassion could bridge even the widest divides. For a moment that felt like forever, The angry man just stood there, looking at Ronaldo's outstretched hand. Then, slowly, something changed in his face. I've been having a really tough time, he said, his voice now barely above a whisper. Lost my job last month. 20 years at the same company, and just like that. He snapped his fingers, the sound echoing in the quiet aisle. Ronaldo nodded, understanding in his eyes. Sometimes when we're hurting, it's easier to blame others than to face our pain, he said softly. You know, when I was 12, my father lost his job too. We were already poor, but after that, he shook his head, remembering. Some nights, we barely had enough to eat. The man looked surprised. You? But you're Cristiano Ronaldo. His voice had lost its earlier anger, replaced by genuine curiosity. Around them, other shoppers listened intently, drawn into this unexpected moment of honesty between two strangers. Yes, I am now. Ronaldo smiled. But before all this, I was just a skinny kid from a poor family on a small island. People looked down on us, made assumptions about who we were, what we could become. He gestured to his simple t-shirt and jeans. That's why I came to Walmart today, to remind myself of where I came from, to stay connected to real life. The young boy who had been juggling the ball earlier edged closer, still holding onto his mother's hand, but no longer hiding. The angry man noticed him and looked down, shame crossing his face as he remembered his earlier outburst. Life has a way of testing us, Ronaldo continued. But it also has a way of bringing people together, just like soccer does. On the field, it doesn't matter where you're from or what language you speak. What matters is how you treat others, how you handle challenges. Other customers who had their own stories of struggle began to nod. An older woman stepped forward, sharing how she'd moved to America 40 years ago with nothing but hope. A young store employee mentioned his family's struggles during the pandemic. Each story added another thread to this unexpected tapestry of shared human experience. The hardest game I ever played, Ronaldo said, wasn't in a World Cup or Champions League final. It was a game in my neighborhood when I was 10, playing with a borrowed ball and torn shoes. Some kids made fun of my old clothes, my accent. But one player stood up for me, shared his water with me. That small act of kindness changed how I saw the world. The man wiped his eyes quickly, trying to hide it. I used to coach Little League, he admitted. Before everything fell apart. Those were good days, seeing kids learn and grow, no matter where they came from. Perhaps, Ronaldo suggested gently, that's something you could return to. Sometimes helping others helps us find our way back to ourselves. He glanced at the young boy, who was now smiling shyly. We all have something to teach and something to learn. The fluorescent lights of Walmart still buzzed overhead, but the atmosphere had transformed completely. What had started as a moment of hatred had become a lesson in humanity, showing how pain could be turned into understanding, how bridges could be built in the most unexpected places. People who had been strangers minutes ago were now exchanging understanding looks, small nods, gentle smiles. The store manager, who had been watching everything unfold, dabbed at her eyes with her sleeve. This wasn't just a conversation anymore. It was a reminder of our shared humanity. The change in the angry man's face was like watching clouds clear after a storm. His shoulders, which had been tight with anger, now drooped with a mixture of shame and relief. He looked around at the faces watching him, faces he had insulted minutes ago, and swallowed hard. I'm sorry, he said, his voice cracking slightly. I was so caught up in my own problems. I forgot that everyone has their own struggles. He turned to look directly at the young boy and his mother. Especially sorry to you both. No child should ever hear words like that. The boy's mother, still holding her son's hand, gave a gentle nod of acknowledgement. The young boy, surprising everyone, picked up the soccer ball and walked over to the man. Would you like to see the trick Ronaldo just taught me? He asked innocently. The simple gesture brought tears to several onlookers' eyes. The man knelt down, now at the boy's level. "I'd like that very much," he said softly. As the boy demonstrated his newfound skills, other shoppers began sharing their own stories. A delivery worker talked about moving to America with just $20 in his pocket. An elderly woman remembered how her parents had faced discrimination when they first arrived. Ronaldo watched it all unfold, amazed at how quickly hatred could melt away when people truly listened to each other. The store had become more than just a place to shop. It was now a space where healing was happening, where barriers were breaking down. "You mentioned you used to coach," Ronaldo said to the man. "Tell me about your best memory from those days." The man's eyes lit up as he described teaching a group of kids their first bicycle kick. As he spoke, his earlier anger seemed to fade completely, replaced by the joy of remembering better times. Other customers who had been keeping their distance now moved closer, drawn into the circle of conversation. A teenager mentioned wanting to start a neighborhood soccer program, but not knowing how. The former coach's eyes sparkled with interest. "I could help with that," he offered hesitantly, looking around as if seeking approval. The young boy was still practicing his juggling, each attempt getting better. "See?" Ronaldo pointed out. "Just like in soccer, in life we get better when we practice. Practice being kind, practice understanding others, practice getting back up when we fall." A small girl who had been watching shyly came forward with her own soccer ball. Soon, there was an impromptu soccer skills session happening right there in the sporting goods aisle. The former coach found himself giving tips alongside Ronaldo, his natural teaching ability shining through. The store manager, watching all this unfold, didn't have the heart to stop it. She saw how a moment that could have ended in security guards and angry words had transformed into something beautiful. Customers who had come to shop for everyday items were now part of an extraordinary moment of human connection. "Sometimes our greatest pain can lead to our greatest purpose," Ronaldo said quietly to the man. "Those coaching skills of yours, they're still needed. Maybe even more than ever." The man nodded, understanding dawning in his eyes as he watched the children practicing their new skills. What had started as an ugly incident was becoming a catalyst for change. People were exchanging phone numbers, making plans for community soccer meetups, offering job networking suggestions to the man. The atmosphere of fear and tension had been completely replaced by one of hope and possibility. As the impromptu soccer lesson continued in the Walmart aisle, Ronaldo realized this moment could be something bigger than just solving one conflict. He looked around at all the faces, young and old, from different backgrounds, all united in this unexpected moment of community. "Everyone, gather around," he called out warmly. The small crowd formed a loose circle, with the former coach and the young boy standing near him. What's happening here right now is what sports is all about. It's not just about winning or losing. It's about bringing people together. The store manager had brought out some folding chairs for the elderly customers, and people were passing around water bottles, sharing them just like teammates would during a game. The scene looked nothing like a typical evening at Walmart anymore. It was more like a community gathering. "Tomorrow," Ronaldo continued, "I'm hosting a soccer clinic for kids, but I think we can make it even better." He turned to the former coach. "Would you like to help me run it? Your experience teaching young players would be valuable." The man's eyes widened in surprise, then filled with tears of gratitude. The young boy who had been practicing his juggling tugged at Ronaldo's sleeve. "Can I come too?" he asked, hopefully. Ronaldo smiled, looking at the boy's mother for permission. She nodded, her eyes shining with pride at her son's newfound confidence. "In fact," Ronaldo announced, "everyone here is invited. Not just to watch, but to be part of it. Because the best lessons in life don't just happen on the soccer field, they happen when we open our hearts to understand each other." People began nodding, some wiping away tears. A teenager who had been quietly watching spoke up. "My dad owns a small printing shop. We could make t-shirts for everyone who comes." Others quickly joined in. A woman offered to bring snacks. Another man said he could set up water stations. What had started as a simple clinic was turning into a community event. The former coach, who just an hour ago had been spewing words of hate, now pulled out his old coaching notebook from his bag. "I have some training drills we could use," he said hesitantly. If you think they'd be helpful." Ronaldo patted him on the shoulder, accepting both the offer and the change of heart it represented. The store's intercom crackled with an announcement about closing in an hour, but nobody moved to leave. Instead, people were exchanging phone numbers, making plans for carpools to tomorrow's event, and sharing stories about how sports had impacted their lives. "See this," Ronaldo gestured to the scene around them. "This is the real power of soccer, of any sport really. It's not about who you are or where you're from. It's about coming together, learning from each other, giving everyone a chance to show their best self." The young boy had finally managed to keep the ball up for 10 touches in a row, and everyone cheered. The former coach gave him a high five, both of them grinning. It was hard to believe these were the same two people who, less than an hour ago, had been divided by fear and anger. "Tomorrow," Ronaldo said, "we're not just going to teach soccer skills. We're going to show how a community can come together, how we can turn misunderstanding into understanding, fear into friendship." He looked at the former coach. "And how sometimes the best teachers are those who are brave enough to learn new lessons themselves." The fluorescent lights still buzzed overhead. Shopping carts still waited in the aisles. But this everyday store had become something magical. A place where barriers broke down, where healing began, and where a simple shopping trip had turned into a lesson of the power of human connection. 1 month after the incredible events at Walmart, the story was still spreading and changing lives. The video of Ronaldo's response to hatred had gone viral, not for the conflict, but for how beautifully it was handled. Major news networks picked up the story, sharing it as an example of how sports can bring people together. Back at that same Walmart, things had changed in amazing ways. The store manager had created a community heroes wall near the entrance, featuring photos from that night and the soccer clinic that followed. Customers would often stop to look at the pictures, pointing out the moment when the angry man transformed into someone new. The former coach had found his purpose again. With help from local businesses who heard about the story, he started a free weekend soccer program for kids from all backgrounds. Every Saturday morning, the field near the community center came alive with the sound of children laughing and playing. Parents who might never have talked to each other before now sat together, sharing coffee and stories while their kids practiced. The young boy who had been scared that night was now one of the star players in the weekend program. His confidence had grown so much that he helped teach younger kids the same juggling tricks Ronaldo had shown him. His mother said she hardly recognized him, not because he had changed, but because he had finally found the courage to be himself. Companies started reaching out to Ronaldo, wanting to turn this into a big advertising campaign. But he turned them all down. "Some moments are too precious for commercials," he said in a social media post that got millions of likes. "This wasn't about me. It was about how everyday people can choose love over hate." The store's sporting goods section had become a special place. Sometimes, kids would come just to practice their soccer skills in that same aisle where it all happened. The store staff didn't mind. They'd even put down tape marks on the floor, showing where Ronaldo had taught that first juggling lesson. Other Walmart stores across the country started their own community programs, inspired by what happened that night. The simple idea of using sports to bring people together spread like wildfire. Shopping aisles became places where people from different backgrounds would stop and chat, sharing their own stories of overcoming prejudice. The former coach and the boy's family kept in touch with Ronaldo through video calls. During one call, the boy showed off his new trick, keeping the ball up for a full minute. Ronaldo cheered just as loudly as he had that night in the store. The coach shared how his life had completely turned around, with new job offers coming in from schools looking for someone who understood both sports and bringing communities together. Local businesses near the Walmart changed too. The printing shop that made shirts for the soccer clinic now had a whole line of Unity-themed clothing. The cafe next door started hosting Community Connection evenings where people could share their stories. Small changes, but they added up to something big. One day, a new family moved to town. When they went shopping at Walmart, feeling nervous in a strange place, other customers welcomed them warmly. The store had become more than just a place to buy things. It was where the community showed its heart. As time passed, the story became a symbol of hope. People would say, "Remember the Ronaldo night," whenever they faced conflicts in their own lives. It reminded them that even in the darkest moments, there was always a chance for light to break through. The real magic wasn't just what happened that night. It was how it kept going, growing, changing lives long after Ronaldo had left. It proved that sometimes the biggest changes start in the smallest places, like a simple shopping trip that turned into a lesson about love, understanding, and the power of giving everyone a second chance.